How's it going, guys? So we're going to be talking about exponents today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define exponent. So the exponent of a number it says something. It says how many times to use that number in multiplication. So an exponent of a number says how many times to use that number in multiplication. Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like. You might have seen them before, so and wondered what they were. So I'm going to start with, say, like the number. Let's do the number 6 here. So we're doing a big number 6. So you might even see these little guys up in the corner. So right here, this number 2. So that number 2 right here, this is called the exponent. Okay, and they also have a couple other names for it. This one's, I don't see this one very often, but index. Okay, but one you'll see more often is power, to the power of 2. Okay, or the exponent is 2, and some of them have special names. So if the exponent is 2, it's actually has a special name. So if the exponent is 2, then it's called squared. And so we'll go over why it's called squared in a second, and even we'll go over the next one. So, and then the next one is if the exponent is 3, then it's called cubed. And we'll go over why it's called that also. So this is our exponent. And then we also have another number here. We have our number 6. And so our 6 is called base. So this is our base number. Okay? So a couple things. So what this means is, what are we doing with this 6? So the exponent of a number says how many times to use that number in multiplication. So the exponent is telling me that I need to use the number 6 2 times in multiplication. So I'm just going to use it in multiplication. I'm going to say, well, 6. So here's my example. 6 times 6. I'm using it 2 times. And 6 times 6 is 36. All right. So when we say 6 to the power of 2, the answer that you should give is, well, it's 6 times 6 and it's 36. Or if we say, well, it's 6 squared, then 6 times 6 is 36. Okay. So we're going to look at a couple of examples and show you why we call it squared and why we call it cubed. So first things first is we're going to take a look at a couple more where we increase the exponents and we'll see what happens. So let's use the same number 6. So 6, we'll say to the power, or 6 to the 5th. And sometimes we'll say 6 to the 5th or 6 to the 6th, or whatever it is up here in the exponent. We might say 6 to the 2nd. We usually don't say that. All right, so here we go. 6 to the 5th is the same thing as 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and that is, oh gosh, I need to get out my calculator for this one. 6 times 6 is 36, and 36 times 6, oh boy, here we go. I'm busting out my calculator. I know, I'm sorry. So 36, let's see, 36 to the power of, oops, no, I want 6 to the power of 5. 6 to the power of 5. This is going to get really big. All right, this is 7,776. Woo! It gets really big really fast. Okay, so what I want you to notice is one thing that is super important. This is not, it is not 6 times 5. I have a lot of students that make that mistake. Oh, well, it's just 6 times 5, and it's, no, this is not 6 times 5. No, no, no. No, bad. Okay, it's not 6 times 5. All right, so I do want you to understand that it's not 6 times 5. It is actually, we're multiplying 6 by 5 times. Okay, 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, so the next one, so the next part I'm going to show you is why is it squared and why do we call it cubed. So here we go. So this one is, so we'll start with squared. So we're going to start with the number 1 right here. So the number 1 is actually a square number, because when we think about geometry and we think about how do I make the number 1, 1 is the same thing as, well, 1 times 1, right? And so if I were to make a cube of 1 unit by 1 unit, it is a square. Okay, so you see how that's a square? And so let's try the number 2. And number 2 is also a square number. All right, not 2. So I'm going to go with 4. Sorry, messed up. 4. Make it thicker. If you make it thicker, people don't know you messed up. So there you go, 4. Now 4 is the product of 2 times 2. And you see how we're still keeping with the same two numbers here? So 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. And so when I make my, when I illustrate that with geometry, we're talking about area. So this is 2 units by 2 units. And I want you to notice that, hey, look, this is a square. And hey, look, this is also a square. All right. Now, another way to write 4, okay, to the power of 2. So it's just, this is the same thing as saying, well, we multiplied, we multiplied 2 times, right? So it's the same thing as saying 2 to the second. See how that works? So let's try it with a bigger square. Let's use 6 because we, oh boy, this is going to get crazy. Let's make it 6 by 6. This is going to get giant. Well, let's do a smaller one. Let's do 3 by 3. That one's easier. 3 by 3. And so 3 squared, because I'm multiplying 3 twice, so that's the same thing as 3 squared, and this is the same thing as 2 squared. And well, 1 squared, right? And so 3 times 3 is 9. So I'm going to have a cube with 9 squares, 9 units, or excuse me, a square with 9 units, not a cube. Look at this. So this is 3 by 3, so it's 1, 2, 3 on this side times 3. And hey, guess what? This is also a square. So when we say it's 3 to the power of 2, or 3 to the second, we actually call it 3 squared, because look, every time there is a 2 here, it makes that 3, or whatever number we have, it turns into a square in geometry. So this is 3 squared. I'm going to use cubed, so we're going to talk about why 3, and I'm going to use my best drawing skills for this one. So we're going to use 9 again. Actually, we're going to use 3. So we're going to say, well, let's try 3 to the third. And we call 3 to the third, we call that cubed. And so what that looks like with exponents is 3 times 3 times 3. And so when we illustrate that in geometry, you'll notice something, and you'll really see why we call it cubed. Because, well, essentially we're making a cube. So here we go. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Here's my best cube. So we're going to make it 3D. Sorry, I went into that one. All right. So this goes. So I'm making my Rubik's cube here. I'm doing my best. Oh, it's getting kind of squished up there. All right, so as you can see with my cube, all right, so we have the length of it, which is 3. We also have the width of it, which is 3 units, and we also have the height of it, which is 3 units. So to find the volume of this cube, it's 3 times 3 times 3, and if we have 3 and 3 and 3, it makes the shape into a cube, and that's the reason why we call it, hey, look, this looks exactly like a cube. All right, which is the same thing as, this 3 makes it cubed. Okay, so that's why we call it cubed, and that's why we call it squared. So hopefully this helps with exponents. So just remember with exponents, so when I'm talking about 6 squared, I'm multiplying 6 times another 6. You count that many 6s. If I have 6 to the 5th, you're multiplying out 5 6s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not 6 times 5. No, no, no. It is you're multiplying out 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 5 times in a row. All right, and here's the reason why it's called squared is because when you multiply them together, 2 times 2, or 2 squared, it looks like a square. Imagine that. And we have 3 squared with a 2 up here. It is also a square. And if we have 3 cubed with a 3, it turns into a cube. All right. So hopefully this helps with exponents. Not to be confused with actual multiplication. It's very different. Hopefully this helps. We'll see you guys later.